Hello, Internet family. So I really want to. This is a Dharma talk. This has to do with Buddhism and spirituality and Christianity, the whole shtick that I'm into. So if you're not interested in that, you don't have to watch these. But I do want to just tidy some things up, clarify some things, because I really want to make sure I stress this. In no way, shape, or form am I suggesting that you have to be a Buddhist or that you have to be a Christian. Absolutely not. I want to be really clear about that because I think sometimes when people in the West, in the United States, because we live in such an evangelical culture, Christian nationalism, people are told that if you're not Christian or you're not Buddhist or whatever, then you're a bad person. No, 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 no. I just want to clarify that because I was listening to another teacher talk about this, and he said something that really just rang true with me. He's like, you don't have to be a Buddhist. I think it was the Dalai Lama. I was finishing up a book, but by the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama at the end of the book says, if you try these practices and they don't work for you, just disregard them. And there was something like totally refreshing about that. Like, hey, the reason the Buddha taught these practices was to help people who were suffering. And if his particular practices are not beneficial to you, don't do them. And I just want to be super clear about that. I think Jesus Christ would honestly say the same thing. His disciples and the people that came after Jesus would not. They tell you that you have to go to the church, that you have to read the Bible, that you have to get confirmed in a particular denomination, that you have to take communion. All of that stuff just creates a prison. And one of the things that I'm really focused on is how do we, deinstitutionalize Christianity? Because that seems to be the problem that everyone has. No one wants to feel like they're in a prison. And we're all kind of stuck in this like Christian culture in the United States where it's like, if you're not a Christian, if you're not going to church every Sunday, yada, 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 then you're a terrible person. And you should pick a religion or a spiritual path that works for you. You should investigate every single one of them. Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Sikhism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism. You do not, and absolutely should you pick the one that works for you. Okay? Do not feel compelled. And by the way, you don't have to do any of them. If you want to be an atheist and atheism works best for you, do that. My reflection is, because I used to be like a big internet atheist or whatever, atheism just didn't work for me because it led me down this path of nihilism. To be fair, I was listening to some really awful atheists back in the day. It was like a whole thing that happened on YouTube. It was weird. I would avoid that culture, the atheist culture on the internet, because a lot of those people are not very good people, if you know what I mean. Because they don't live by ethics. And ethics are really, really important. And Buddhist ethics in particular are centered around non-harming. And I found those to just be revolutionary. Like when I started practicing ethics and meditation and generosity, it's like, oh my God, I feel a lot better. There's this connection between my spiritual path and my psychology. When I do better with my spiritual path, when I'm more faithful to my spiritual path, I feel better. I have a better attitude. I just feel better. I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious. I'm not indifferent. I'm engaged and without overdoing it. Like I'm just in this really good rhythm, really good flow. And I feel that today. And that's why I'm doing this little Dharma talk. I think with the Buddha and with Christ, honestly, listen, I'm going to be very clear. I'm not a spiritual teacher. Please understand, like if you want to find qualified spiritual Buddhist teachers or Christian teachers, you can find them all over the internet. Please don't take my word for it. I mean, I am not qualified to teach any of this stuff, but I will say that one of the things that really struck me about the Buddhist teaching is he's like, listen, you're not supposed to just believe me. That's not the way this works. Do not simply believe me. Try the practices for yourself. Figure out where you're suffering. Here's a particular antidote that I would recommend as the Buddha that might alleviate some of your suffering. And if that works for you, then continue to take the medicine, right? If the medicine makes you better, continue to take it. And if it doesn't make you better, stop taking it. In other words, we weren't supposed to like put Buddha on a pedestal and say you have to follow this guy. If you're not following Buddha, then we're going to come in and excommunicate you or chop your head off or whatever. No. That is not. I just want to be really clear about that because I think sometimes when I talk about this stuff, because of the country I live in and the culture of the United, like that is how some modern Christians talk about this stuff. I mean, the modern Christianity, American Christianity, functions a lot like the Taliban. You know what I mean? In terms of how they view women and how they view your life. Most Christians, and the reason why Christianity becomes kind of this cultish or cage or prison for people, is because you're told to defer all of your happiness in this lifetime, and that the reward's going to come in your next lifetime. And if that logic is so pervasive in Christianity, and I know it's pervasive in Islam, and I know it's pervasive in Judaism as well, like the Abrahamic religions are notorious for saying sacrifice yourself in this life, and in the next life it'll be bliss and happiness forever and ever, ever, amen. And that is a recipe for disaster. You know what I mean? Because the second life gets difficult for those folks, it creates all kind of problematic behavior and neuroses. They suppress a lot of their stuff. They don't know how to deal with their own emotions, and they project all that stuff on other people. And that's why we have this endless cycle of religious conflict with these religions. It's just endless with these folks because they're not dealing with their own internal issues. That's the whole point of spirituality. The point of spirituality, not to get all woo-woo and fancy and, not that there's anything wrong with that, but come on, some of the modern spirituality people make this stuff out to be like, oh, it's magic. And there is a mystical element to it. I don't want to discount that. But the primary point is that we simply grow up. We learn how to mature. We learn how to hold ourselves accountable. That's it. We don't seek validation from the outside world. And I cannot tell you how liberating that is. To be able to develop that sense of self-awareness, that sense of self-reflection, and use the power of your own wisdom to make better choices for yourself that alleviates suffering. It's revolutionary. You don't have to, oh God, not that you shouldn't go see a therapist, go see a therapist. I'm not saying don't see a therapist. But there's a lot of stuff. We're not helpless. We're not helpless. We have this wonderful, wonderful discerning mind that can use logic and reason and wisdom to cut the root of ignorance so that we can live a truer, more authentic version of ourselves than would otherwise be possible. So I love you. Thank you for hanging in there. I'm going to shut up now. I love you. Goodbye.